Good morning. So we didn't get to start the fossil activity from Friday, but linked in your agenda is the instructions for the forming fossil activity, and you're going to be forming fossils in Play-Doh. So one thing that you need to make sure of is that all of the supplies that you need are here on the table. So we have the Play-Doh here. Just make sure the Play-Doh gets back in the containers where you found it. And then we have all of these different supplies here. So we have rocks and marshmallows and feathers and beans, flowers, letters, animals, and finally Legos. So one thing I want you to think about is in part one, it's going to be having you make an impression of a fossil in the Play-Doh. So you're making your own fossil. Now I want you to be creative. Now don't just pick a letter and like smush it in the clay because that's pretty simple. And remember, a fossil is not always made perfectly. So be a little bit creative. Think about how you could do it to make it a little bit more unique, because you're going to go and have two other people look at the fossil you made and then try to guess what it was. So you're going to pick 3 or 4 objects, and then when you make the impression, you're going to take those objects to the other person, and they're going to guess from what you have whether or not they can figure out what the fossil was that you made. So you're going to do that, and you're going to make, I believe it says in the instructions, 2 or 3 different fossils. So you're going to need a piece of paper, because you're going to write down who checked your fossils, and then you're going to need Mrs. Morton to sign off that you've completed that portion. For part 2, you're going to create kind of a cast of a fossil. So you're going to pick another object. You're actually going to wrap the clay around the object that you choose, and then you're just going to look at it to see what the impression looks like. So after you finish that, you have questions for part 1 and 2 that you need to answer, and you need to answer those in the submission box on Echo, which is also linked in your agenda. And then there's a question asking you to draw out how fossils are made, or the process in which fossils are made. So I want you to do that on paper and do some research. There's a lot of good websites out there. And it also asks you to identify the types of fossils you made in part 1 and 2. So I linked a website in the agenda that explains the 5 different types of fossils. So use that as a resource. I am in the building today if you have questions, and Mrs. Martin can text me or whatever, and I might be able to slip out for a moment if there's too much confusion. So good luck, and you're going to have about 30 minutes to complete this, so have a great day.